Welcome. Find a comfortable position. Let your body settle into stillness and allow your thoughts to drift slowly, gently, back through time. Tonight, we leave behind the modern world, its glowing screens, its familiar rhythms, its comforting conveniences, and take a quiet step into the harsh, disciplined, and unrelenting world of the Roman military. But this is not the world of gleaming armor and triumphant conquests you might imagine. No, tonight's journey begins not in glory, but in grit, not in battle, but in the long, exhausting grind between them. Tonight, you are not Caesar. You are a legionary. So imagine yourself in worn sandals, your feet aching from days of marching. You carry the weight of your gear on your back, your shield heavy against your shoulder. The sun beats down as dust curls up beneath your steps, caught in your throat with every breath. You are far from home, bound to duty, ruled by discipline and shaped by routine. This is the story of the Roman army, not as a machine of victory, but as a relentless system of human endurance. And this is only the beginning. As you listen, there's no need to stay fully awake. Let your mind settle where it will, in the crackling of a distant campfire, the creak of leather straps, or the rhythmic sound of sandals over stone roads. Wherever the story leads, know that it leads gently, and you are safe to follow. Let us begin. Imagine it's dawn on the frontier. The air is cool but already tinged with heat to come. Your tent, made of coarse leather, is damp from the night's dew. You've slept on the ground again. There are no beds in the Roman military, only earth, and a thin mat if you're fortunate. You rise before the sun, not because you want to, but because the centurion's voice has already cut through the early quiet. There is no negotiation with Roman discipline, only obedience. Slowly you strap on your armor. It chafes your shoulders. The leather is stiff, the metal cold against your skin. Your back aches from the day before, because yesterday, like today, was a day of marching. But this isn't a casual stroll. Roman legionaries were expected to cover up to 20 miles a day, fully equipped. That means you carry your shield, your sword, your tools for camp building, rations, a cloak, cooking pots, and a few personal items if there's room. Altogether, your pack weighs about 90 Roman pounds, more than 40 kilograms by modern measure. So much weight on so many roads for so many years. After marching, there is no rest. The camp must be built from scratch every night. This too is your duty. You dig ditches, you erect wooden palisades, you pitch tents and guard perimeters, all done with methodical precision. The Roman army didn't simply stop for the night. It recreated civilization wherever it went. And once the camp is established, there are drills, always drills, swordplay, formation practice, endurance training. Then there are punishments, not for wrongdoing, but for any deviation from perfection. The Roman army was built on fear as much as discipline. A soldier who broke formation might be beaten. A group that failed might see 1 in 10 selected for execution. A method called decimation. As calm and structured as everything else. You keep your head down, you polish your armor, you sharpen your blade, and you hope the night brings stillness. But even rest is a duty. Each night, soldiers stand guard in rotating watches, and every soldier must take their turn, whether exhausted or injured or ill. Sleep, if it comes, is light. The sounds of the camp drift on the air. Boots crunching gravel, the dull clang of metal, murmurs of Latin prayers whispered before sleep. You might think all this builds toward battle, but battles were rare. Most Roman soldiers spent more time building roads, digging fortifications, guarding supply lines, and simply surviving. You are, in every sense, a cog in a living empire. You live for the sound of the trumpet, the will of the officer, the orders etched into your muscles from endless repetition. And when battle does come, you'll face it as you've faced every other task, not with rage or fear or glory, but with discipline. Because in the Roman army, you are not meant to think. You are meant to endure. And so, after your day of marching, digging, drilling, and guarding, you return to your tent, collapse into the earth once more, and dream only of tomorrow's command. For tomorrow will be the same, and the day after that, until your service ends, or you do. If you are still awake, allow yourself to stretch gently, take a slow breath, and know that our journey is far from over. In the next part, we will follow the path of one Roman general whose name became a warning throughout the empire, Varus. Now we step away from the weary footsteps of the common soldier and follow a different path, the path of power, of prestige, and ultimately of ruin. His name was Publius Quinctilius Varus, a Roman noble, a trusted official, a man whose downfall would echo across the empire and stain the memory of 3 legions forever. He was not born for tragedy, he was born for status. Varus came from a well-established patrician family and moved easily through the corridors of Roman power. He served as consul, as governor. He was known as intelligent, composed, and loyal to Augustus, the emperor who ruled over a Rome that no longer needed civil war, but needed men who could manage its growing provinces. First came Syria. There, Varus governed with order and severity. He enforced laws, collected taxes, and dealt swiftly with resistance. He was not beloved, but he was effective. And so, when the province of Germania needed supervision, Augustus turned to him. At first glance, Germania may have seemed tame. Roman legions had pushed the frontier beyond the Rhine. Forts had been built, roads laid, tribes had been pacified, or so it seemed, and Varus, trusting in the surface calm, took command of the region with confidence. But Germania was never truly pacified. Beneath the surface, tribal leaders bristled under Roman control. Taxes were resented, customs misunderstood. One of those leaders, a chieftain named Arminius, had trained under Roman command. He had served in the Roman army, he spoke Latin. Varus considered him an ally, but Arminius had other plans. In the year 9 AD, Varus received reports of unrest beyond the frontier. Arminius urged him to act quickly. "Take the shortcut through the forest," he said. "Move fast. Crush the rebellion before it spreads." So Varus led his legions, the 17th, 18th, and 19th, into the thick, unfamiliar terrain of the Teutoburg forest. The path was narrow. The ground was muddy from recent rain. Wagons bogged down. Soldiers stretched thin across the twisting trail. Visibility vanished beneath the trees. And then it began. Ambush. From all sides, Germanic warriors poured from the forest. The Romans, trained for open-field combat, could not form their ranks. The legions were not just attacked, they were dismantled, harried by day, assaulted by night. 3 legions, thousands of men, systematically overwhelmed over the course of 3 brutal days. In the end, there was no order, no formation, no escape, only silence. The eagles, the sacred standards of each legion, were lost. The symbols of Roman pride, captured by enemies the empire had considered inferior. And Varus, realizing the full scope of the disaster, took his own life. Perhaps out of shame, perhaps to avoid capture. Either way, the empire was stunned. Back in Rome, the news arrived like a cold wind through marble halls. Augustus, the emperor who had brought peace after decades of war, reportedly wandered the palace, muttering over and over, "Quinctilius Varus, give me back my legions." But they would never return. The 17th, 18th, and 19th legions were never reformed. Their numbers were retired, their legacy erased, their memory wrapped in silence. The Teutoburg disaster did not end Roman interest in Germania, but it marked the edge. Rome would no longer push further into the forest. A boundary had been drawn in blood and fog. Varus, once a figure of authority, became a symbol of misplaced trust. His name a quiet warning to future leaders: never underestimate the land or the people who know it better than you. And so 3 legions vanished into the forest, Their bones, their shields, their silence buried beneath moss and time. They are remembered not for what they achieved, but for how they were lost. Now we leave the known paths and enter the shadows. In the next segment, we explore a mystery that still lingers, the story of another Roman legion, one that didn't just fall. It vanished without a trace. When you're ready, we'll uncover what remains of the mystery of the Ninth Legion. Let us move now from recorded ruin to quiet mystery. Not all legions met their end with trumpets and blood. Some simply disappeared, and none more famously than the Ninth. The Legio IX Hispana, a decorated Roman legion with a long, honorable history, vanished from the written record, leaving behind only silence, fragments, and questions. The Ninth was no minor force. It likely earned its name fighting in Hispania, modern-day Spain, and served throughout Gaul and Britain. By the early 2nd century, it was stationed in Iberacum, present-day York, one of Rome's key outposts in Britain. There, it guarded the edge of empire, facing the cold winds and stubborn resistance of the northern tribes. It built roads, forts, walls. It was part of Rome's effort to make the wild, misty north into something manageable, and then it vanished. There is no single record of its destruction, no glorious defeat, no final stand carved into stone. One day it is there, in records and pay lists, and then it is not. Gone from official rolls, replaced in garrisons, its standard never seen again, its soldiers never named. This silence has become one of Roman history's most enduring puzzles. Some believe the Ninth was destroyed in battle, perhaps against an uprising in northern Britain, or a sudden coalition of tribes that overwhelmed it beyond the wall. It may have fallen in a forgotten valley in thick fog, outnumbered, outmaneuvered, just like Varus's legions in the forest. But no ancient writer records such a loss. Others argue the Ninth wasn't destroyed, but reassigned, that it was quietly moved to the continent, perhaps to the Rhine or even the east. There are vague references. A tile stamped with 9 Hispana found in the Netherlands, uncertain inscriptions in Syria, but none that place the full legion firmly in time. No commanding officer, no battlefield honor, only echoes. Then there is the theory of political erasure, that the legion may have been disbanded after dishonor, stripped of its number, and allowed to fade into the ranks of newer legions. A quiet dissolution, one that left no monument, no poem, no funeral flame. But the mystery remains. How could a full Roman legion, thousands of soldiers, engineers, officers, support staff, vanish so completely? Over time, the story of the Ninth has become as much folklore as fact. Books, films, and poems imagine its fate. Perhaps it was betrayed, ambushed deep in the misty moors. Perhaps it joined the tribes it once fought. Perhaps it wandered leaderless into the hills and was never seen again. But history offers only silence. Archaeologists continue to search. Forts in northern England show signs of sudden rebuilding, burned layers, gaps in occupation. But none can be linked definitively to the Ninth. The records of the empire remain blank, as if the Ninth had marched into fog and simply kept going. And so, the Ninth lives on. Not in glory, but in absence. A legion remembered not for its victories, but for the space it left behind, for the question it never answered. As you lie in stillness, picture the soft tread of sandals over damp stone, the low clang of armor carried in silence, a line of soldiers wrapped in mist, moving north and never returning. Now, as the mystery fades, we turn our gaze to the other side of Rome, not the rough edge of empire, but the polished center. In the final segment, we'll slip quietly into the candlelit world of Roman elites and see how life unfolded among the marble and shadows of power. When you're ready, we'll join dinner with a senator, life among the Roman elite. Let us now step away from the silence of the vanished legions and the cold winds of the frontier. away from mud, from discipline, from the burdens of marching. Tonight, we enter a different world, a quieter one, but no less structured. A world of polished stone and controlled conversation, of velvet shadows and ritual power. Tonight, you are a guest in the home of a Roman senator. The villa is grand, but not ostentatious. Its power is not shown through glittering display, but through order, clean lines, calm spaces, cool air. The floor beneath your feet is mosaic, its tiny stones forming mythic patterns. The walls are painted in deep reds and ochres. Along the colonnade, olive trees sway gently in the warm Roman evening. You hear water trickling from a marble fountain, a soft rhythm that fills the silence between footsteps. The senator, your host, is a man of status, not a general, not an emperor, but a figure carved from the bones of the Republic. One of the few who still carries the weight of old dignity. His power is quiet, shaped by lineage, favors owed, favors given. When he speaks, it is measured. When he listens, it is strategic. His day began early. As the city stirred, he received visitors in the atrium, clients seeking support, men of lesser rank offering loyalty. These daily greetings, part of the salutatio, are less about affection and more about position. A handshake here, a word of encouragement there. It is all theatre, quiet, political theatre. But now, the sun is lower, and the time has come for the evening meal. Not just food, scena is performance. You are led into the dining room, the triclinium. 3 couches form a U-shape around a low table. The air smells of spiced wine, honey-glazed meats, and freshly crushed herbs. You recline, as is custom, supported by one elbow. Slaves move silently across the room, pouring wine, placing dishes, adjusting the lamps. The first course is light: olives, eggs, cheeses. Small bites to open the appetite. Then come the richer offerings: roast duck, lamb with herbs, fish served in sauces of vinegar and mint. The dishes are delicate, carefully arranged. Not a feast of abundance, but of taste. The senator does not boast with food. He impresses with restraint. Wine is served, but never pure. It is always mixed with water. To drink it straight is uncivilized. Conversation flows with it, slow, thoughtful. No loud laughter, no raised voices. The senator speaks of poetry, of Cicero, of the latest news from Syria or Gaul. Every word, every pause is part of a larger game, the maintenance of image. You notice the paintings on the walls, scenes from myth, from Homer, from Roman legend. Not just decoration, but a silent reminder. This household is educated. This man is rooted in the old ways, the values of Mos Maiorum, the customs of the ancestors. Around you, slaves continue their quiet dance. They refill cups, replace platters, adjust the folds of a guest's tunic. Their presence is constant but invisible. They do not speak unless spoken to. They move without being noticed. They are expected to be part of the background, like the columns or the floor. As the meal ends, the guests offer thanks. The senator nods, expression unchanged. The conversation slows. The lamps grow dimmer. Outside, the first stars appear. Later, when the guests have gone, the senator remains awake. Perhaps he walks the peristyle garden. Perhaps he dictates a letter by lamplight. Perhaps he sits in silence, listening to the faint sounds of the city beyond his walls. The murmur of distant voices, the clatter of hooves on stone, the occasional bark of a dog. He knows he is watched, envied, feared. But tonight, he is alone. And in the quiet of his villa, beneath painted gods and a cooling sky, the senator sleeps. From the endless discipline of a marching legionary, to the downfall of a commander, to a legion that faded into mystery, and the soft candlelight of an elite Roman home, we've followed Rome not through its battles, but through its burdens, through the quiet grind of empire, felt by soldier and senator alike. The Roman world was not always glorious. Often it was exhausting, orderly, heavy. But from that weight came legacy, the kind built not on glory, but on endurance. Now, as you rest in the present, you carry none of those duties. No watch to stand, no trench to dig, no law to recite by oil lamp. Only breath, only calm, only the steady rhythm of your own time. Sleep well, traveler. The legions are quiet now, and so are you.